Good afternoon, Collegiate Academy. Welcome back to another day of math class. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about the volume of cones. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to look at a cone and be able to determine its volume. So let's get ourselves started with our affirmation. Today, I will do my best to be my best. What I do today will make a difference in my life. My choices will affect me and those around me. I will listen, I will be honest, I will respect the rights of others. I will learn something today because today matters and my future is built on one now at a time. So let's begin by familiarizing ourselves with what a cone is, define it, and then look at an example. Okay. So a cone is a solid three-dimensional object with a circular base and a curved surface that tapers to a point that we call the apex or the vertex. Those two words can be used interchangeably, okay? So over here, we see a base. That's a circle, right? And all the points converge, or all the sides converge to a point that we call the apex up here, okay? This is where I would recommend you grab a piece of paper so you can jot down this formula and also a calculator. It will serve us to be pretty beneficial throughout this lesson, okay? But this formula is really important to take note of over here, okay? In order to find the volume of a cone, you're going to use the formula right over here. Volume of a cone equals 1/3 times the area of the base, which in this case is a circle, times the height of the cone. If you are trying to find out what the area of the base is, we are going to have to track back to the formula over here that we've talked about previously, okay? The area of the base, or in this case, the circle, would just be pi r squared, okay? So again, this formula over here is going to be our best friend with regard to solving for volume of cones. So make sure you guys have this written down. Also, before we move on, important to distinguish between diameter and radius, okay? The diameter is the full length across the circle, whereas the radius is half, okay? So make sure that when you're plugging formulas or when you're plugging numbers into the formula over here, that you are making or taking note of what you're being given, okay? Let's jump into some practice, okay? So we have a few sets of cones that we're going to solve, okay? The first one over here, I am going to serve as a demonstration. The second one, you guys will get to practice on your own, okay? So let's go ahead and look at this one over here. They asked me to find the volume of the following cone, okay? So before we do that, one thing I need to know in order to solve for the volume of a cone is the area of the base, right? What was the shape of the base in this specific problem or this specific shape? Circle, yeah, like we mentioned earlier. So to find out what the area of a circle is, or the area of the base, we're going to use the formula pi r squared, okay? And what was the radius for the base over here that they gave me? Yeah, 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that down. Pi, instead of r, I'm going to put 1 squared, okay? What is 1 squared? Just 1, right? So if I do pi times 1, I find out that the area of my base is just pi. So that is the area of my base. Let me go back into my original formula over here to find out what the volume of the cone is, okay? So the volume of a cone is, if you guys can go ahead and tell me what that formula is. Yeah, 1/3 times the area of the base times the height of the cone. So here we're just going to plug numbers in. That will be 1/3 times, yep, pi, which was the area of the base, and multiply that by what? The height, which would be 3, okay? 1/3 times 3 cancels out. So what am I left with over here? Yeah, I'm left with just pi, okay? we're gonna solve all our answers in terms of pi, so we're just gonna leave it like that. If I asked you guys what the volume of this cone is, we would just say pi, okay? If you wanted to write it as 3.14, you could, but again, I'll be showing you guys all the solutions in terms of pi, so the volume of this cone would just be pi, okay? Let's go ahead and try, I'm gonna ask that you guys press pause on the video and try to solve this second problem over here. It's constructed very similarly, one number is different, okay? Because we're gonna kind of ease ourselves into more difficult problems. So go ahead and press pause, try to solve this. When you get back, we are gonna go ahead and work through it, okay? So for those of us who are back with me, we need to find out two things here, right? We need to find out the volume of the cone, obviously. And before we do that as well, we have to find out what the area of the base is. So let's go ahead and start there. The formula for the area of the base, which in this case is a circle, would just be area of the base is pi r squared, right? Now, looking at this shape over here, what would be the radius? Or looking at the base, what would be the radius of the base? 2. So I just do pi, my apologies, pi times 2 squared. 2 squared is just 4. So my answer for the area of the base would just be 4 pi. Now that I have that, I can start plugging into my volume formula. So for volume, I know I'm going to do 1/3 times the area of the base, which was 4 pi, and times the height of the cone, which was 3. Multiply all those together. The 3 and the 1/3 are going to cancel out. So I'm just left with 4 pi. So the volume of my cone over here is just going to be 4 pi. We're going to leave it just like that, okay? So let's jump into another set of problems over here, okay, guys? As always, we're going to have one demonstration problem and then a practice problem, okay? So looking at the problem over here on the left, I'm being asked to solve the same type of problem. They give me a cone and I'm being asked to find the volume, okay? So they say, find the volume of this cone. As always, two important first steps, right? If you want to, or we have to find out what the volume is, but in order to do that, we have to find out what the area of the base is. So let's go ahead and start there. The formula for the area of the base is just pi r squared. In this case, what is my radius? 2. So I just do pi times 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. So I would just write 4 pi over here for the area of the base. Now that I have that, I can solve for volume. So can someone remind me real quick what the area for, what the formula for the volume of a cone is? 1/3 times B times H, or 1/3 times the area of the base times height. So I'm just going to do 1/3 times 4 pi times 8. It's exactly that. And over here, this is where it would be helpful if you had a calculator. If not, you can just kind of do the math in your head. We're going to multiply all the numbers in here together, right? So we have 1/3 times 4 times 8, okay? 4 times 8 is just going to be 32. And the denominator would just be 3 because I'm multiplying it by a fraction. And then I'd just be left with pi as well. And we can actually write our answer just like that, okay? So we can say that the volume of this cone is just 32 over 3 pi, okay? That would be a sufficient answer. If you wanted to simplify it, you absolutely could. You could do 32 divided by 3, which would give you a number a little bit bigger than 10, and then multiply that by 3.14. But as I mentioned, we're just going to leave the answers relative to pi. Okay. I'm more so interested in us knowing the application of where to put the radius, base, all that kind of stuff, than the actual nuances of all the numbers. Okay. So now that we have that one done, I'm going to give you guys a second to try to solve this problem over here. The catch is this problem is a little bit different. I want you to be mindful of what they gave you, okay? Specifically with information on the base. So just make sure you double check what you see. And once you have a solution, you can press resume, where we'll talk about the answer, okay? So for those of us who are back with me, we have a cone that looks really similar to what we've been given before, right? To find the volume, we got to start by finding the base, or the area of the base, so let's start doing that. The area of the base is going to be pi times r squared, right? Does the problem, let's look at what they give me. They give me this number over here, 8. What does 8 represent? Does it represent half of the length across the circle, or the whole length across the circle? It represents the whole. In this case, they gave me the diameter. So what I'm going to do for this problem is just cut the diameter in half, and that'll give me the radius. So just make sure you use that number instead, okay? So what I would put down would be pi times, instead of 8 squared, I'd do 4 squared, right? That would give me 16 pi. So it's really important to make the distinction there, okay, guys? Because that would have thrown your answer off entirely if you didn't. So area of the base is 16 pi. Now we can plug this into our volume formula. So I'm going to do 1/3 times the area of the base, which is 16 pi, times the height of the cone, which is 9. And we're just going to solve across. Okay. I'm going to simplify this since I know I'm multiplying all the numbers together. This 3 is going to go ahead and cancel out. This is going to become a 3 because 9/3. And then I would just have 16 times 3, which gives me 48 pi. Now I would leave my solution just like that.